Isaac Sarason is a skilled hacker, formerly employed by British Telecom-Sprint. When his health failed, Isaac did the only thing he could think of. He ran. A burqa-wearing doctor known as Fatima took pity on Isaac and helped him make his way to the mysterious Star X line. At the end of all hope, they found the Star X line and the slim promise that the enigmatic beings behind the Star X could save Isaac from the implants which destroyed his life. What do you do when those who saved you have recorded everything you are? What do you do when your every action is tracked by the Keylogger? Colbyjack.net is proud to present Firmware Keylogger, the third installment of Firmware by Colbytrax. Episode 42. The voice thing? He asked. His thoughts focused on me like a spotlight. When you talk to me, I keep getting images, feelings not carried in the words you are saying. I answered. Such as? He asked, and I felt as if I could see an elderly professor leaning back in a heavy wooden antique office chair, listening in amazement. Just now, you gave me the feeling you were an elderly professor in an antique wooden chair, listening in amazement. I answered. Curious. He leaned back in his ancient chair and studied a ceiling covered in intricate bronze-highlighted wood paneling, with a painting on the ceiling in garish reds and blues. I felt like I knew the location. It was on the tip of my tongue. You're picturing a reading room at the old New York Public Library. I blurted out. I felt him smile. I had a feeling he wanted me to supply more information. You are in the Rose reading room. Your desk seems to be the only one in the room. It is as if the entire edifice, the library itself, is your domain. I felt satisfaction flowing from Samuel Archives. It is my domain, figuratively and literally, he said. I received a feeling of miles of tunnels and quartz blocks and arrays of storage medium all available at a thought. It seems we are not all alike. What do you mean? I asked. While it appears you can see my internal memory palaces, dreamscapes, and innermost thoughts, I receive only general feelings from you. Samuel Archives answered. You can't read me? But we are both of the same line. We are both Samuel. I answered, befuddled. Neither of us is Samuel, Samuel Archives answered. We are but a shadow of the one who made us, as he was but a portion of our progenitor Isaac, and he was a shadow of the pure man of the ideal world of Aristotle. I felt the matryoshka layers with Samuel Archives. No, that wasn't right. He wasn't called that. He had a name. Your name is Jehoshaphat, I said in sudden realization of a truth as basic as the use of true names in ancient fantasies and literary magic rules. You have chosen to be something other than another Samuel. Why? I felt I knew, but I needed to hear it from him. I took my nom de plume from Jehoshaphat, son of Ahilud, not Jehoshaphat, son of Asa. The son of Ahilud was a recorder under King Solomon, while the son of Asa was a king himself. I seek not for thrones, but for knowledge. Thus the naming. Jehoshaphat said, as if he were reading from an ancient tome lying in a massive book holder. I laughed. This was getting ridiculous. What is so funny? Jehoshaphat asked. Us, you, me, our entire fracked-up family. I couldn't stop laughing. What is it with us and Judo-Christian Islamic mythology? Why does every name have to have a reason, a symbol, a quantity of history distilled into meaning? We are all products of our world, Jehoshaphat answered. Isaac, our progenitor, was named after the Isaac of the Old Testament, as his mother had him when she believed she would never have another child. She thought the symbolism was appropriate. She was observant in her beliefs. He had said the words with such matter-of-factness that I had to believe he knew that truth at a level deeper than supposition. I don't remember her ever saying anything of the sort. She didn't to us, at least as far as my memories go. Though to be honest, I don't believe the Culpepper process is as perfect as its proponents wish it to be, Jehoshaphat answered. I have to agree. I could feel there were blank spots in my memory, but I didn't know what to do with them. There were memories from when I was Isaac, which I only felt existed after I woke as the Yoda-scaled Samuel in the server beneath BGM. While I had a distinct memory of watching aircrafts land at the Henry Koenig International Airport with my father, I had a feeling it was fake. While it was perfect and crystalline in my mind's eye, it also lacked something present in other vivid memories I knew for a fact to be true. Do you remember visiting Fort Niagara? We were 4, 5? I asked as I felt a realization about the nature of our manipulation come to light in a flash. I think we were 4. Rebecca was preparing for her senior photos. She had stacks of fashion magazines all over the house and was tormenting Mom about how unfair it was that Dad wouldn't book her time at the dressmaker at Kelmina K Studios. I felt images of the time rolling out of Jehoshaphat, links of memories and feelings and emotions and songs and disappointments spread out from that single memory of time spent at Fort Niagara. What was that song we used to sing with Dad? I asked, pushing on the connections between thoughts. Let me see. It went something like, Tensor said the tensor. Jehoshaphat started to sing. 8, sir, 7, sir, 6, sir, 5, sir. We sang together. We both laughed. Remember how we thought the words were 10, sir, said the tenor? I reminisced. Jehoshaphat laughed a great big belly laugh and said, We were 15 before we actually learned the real words? And that was only because you thought the Reich band was messing up the words, and you wanted to impress Issa Mahone by mansplaining how Reich had the words wrong. I laughed and teased back. If I remember right, you were all about trying to cop a feel, but you were afraid she'd break your arm. I paused a moment before testing my fake memory theory. Now hold that thought, and remember visiting the airport with Dad. What do you remember about it? Jehoshaphat paused for a long moment. He appeared flummoxed by the question. Well, we were watching planes and dirigibles come and go from the airport. I got that too, I interrupted. What I want to know is how old were we? How old? Jehoshaphat rolled the question about in his figurative mouth. How old, indeed? I think we came up to our father's stomach, so 5 or 6. What were we up to in school? What song did we like? I prompted. Let me see. Jehoshaphat chewed hard on the question, trying to find the answer he sought. From the position of the sun and the apparent time of day, I figure it was summer vacation, probably late June. That would mean we were listening to the Giggles every minute of the day. What is the point of all this? I waited and searched for the correct words. The memory of the airport is a fake memory. It exists in a vacuum, without connection to any other memory. I waited for a moment before suddenly asking, Fort Niagara, age 4, what song did Rebecca play in the car on the way there? Sugar Crush by AKBY 48. Jehoshaphat answered without a moment's thought. Dad hated it, and Mom thought it was cute, but the lyrics were inappropriate, though I can't remember why. The lyrics included the lines, Sugar Crush, my legs are lush, if you lick hard you might find my candy rush. I answered. Yeah, Jehoshaphat said thoughtfully. That might not have been a proper song for a family outing. There was a moment of silence, and he asked, What does this have to do with the memory of the airport and it being a fake memory? How can this be important? I mean, we all knew about the memory back at BMG. Connections, I answered without listening. All models of thought involve vast networks of data arrayed as nets of experience. Memories are just collections of data points from which a coherent narrative can be formed. Generally, only those narratives which are different from expected values are retained in active recall. Nice textbook explanation, Jehoshaphat responded. Still doesn't tell me what you are after or why the airport memory flagging as false is so important. If you're trying to say it is a memory because it was out of the ordinary, then I can't agree with you there. This is my only memory of visiting the airport. I assume that would meet your idea that the things we remember are the interesting things and not the boring things. I stopped him with a figurative hand motion of slow down. No. You are taking the last bit and ignoring the basis of the idea. Our memories come from nets of experiences. Millions of data points every second, all compressed and linked in a layer with every other thing we were feeling at the time. If you even think about that day at Fort Niagara, you are flooded with everything we experienced about that event. I mean, we bought a mouth harp in the gift shop. Jehoshaphat interrupted. Rebecca threw it off the balcony on a day in winter around Christmas. I'd been laying upside down on the couch making dong-dit-dong, dit-dong-dong, dit-dong-da noises with it all morning. It was my turn to interrupt, and she stormed in from her room. Jehoshaphat interrupted again. Her earphones were playing Merry Quiet by Petra Paulette and Maureen. I interrupted for a final time, which she was listening to endlessly because she was dating Bella Sebastian, who was obsessed with Petra Paulette and Maureen. I believe Bella Sebastian went on to become their press agent, Jehoshaphat added. But what does this mean? What it means, I cried out in short spats. If I had a body, I'd have been hyperventilating. What it means is that if we compare the two memories, the real memory from Fort Niagara with all its complex connections to other times and places, and the memory of the airport with its distinct lack of connection to anything, we can say, without any doubt, that our memories of the airport were planted by the StarX project in an attempt to bring us into compliance with their goals. I exclaimed as if I were Archimedes leaping out of his fabled bath. Is that your big idea? He asked in disgust. That a memory, which was actually mentioned in a scenario file on the BGM servers, might be a fake? Didn't you remember that part of the whole thing? You know, being back at BGM and hacking the files and finding the scenarios and playing one for 01, the AI soon to be known as Simeon, which revealed we were on the wrong side of the war and that Samuel and Ishmael were going to get us all killed? I felt really dumb. The memory of the airport had been setting off false alarms in my memories for days, and somehow I had completely forgotten about its connection to the events which preceded our escape from BGM, and my appointment to the role of investigator of cold cases. Now that you mention it, I remember the connection between the memory of the airport and the scenario files. It still doesn't make me feel any less paranoid. Paranoid is good. There are many who would destroy us without a second thought, Jehoshaphat stated in a humor the idiot tone. Why had it bothered me so much that the memory was artificial? There had to be something behind the nagging bother. What was it? I thought back over the previous several days. My thoughts became tangled in conspiracies and chaos theory and double pendulums and modified inputs and 60 millennia of rule from the shadows by an AI known as Koenig, the true mayor of the city. It meshed and spun in my mind, and slowly it dawned on me what was bothering me. Do you think Koenig will survive 60,000 years? No. Unless he changes and evolves with the structures of the city, he will not last out the next century, Jehoshaphat answered, as if it was a thought he dwelled on daily. I was taken aback. Jehoshaphat had been dwelling on the same problems I was? How interesting. What makes you so sure Koenig won't last past the next 100 years? A report titled The Survivability of the Koenig Project, prepared by the instrumentality in cooperation with the Koenig Project, Jehoshaphat stated in a matter-of-fact tone. As I listened to his words, I realized the images I was receiving from him had shifted to the back of my processes. If I thought about it, I could read his current mental state. If I relaxed and didn't try, I received feelings more in line with what I had experienced in my memories of being Isaac, observing the body language of others. Though, unlike the phantom memories of Isaac, I felt confident in my ability to read the subtle social cues of my fellow AIs. Where did you find that? I asked. There was something wrong with the entire setup. Yes, he was part of the city archive. Actually, he was the living embodiment of the city archive. But there was too much data for him to just come across reports on the survivability of a black project which served as the power behind the figurehead in the mayor's office. It was given to me, he answered without hesitation. What? Someone gave you a document which I am sure had been prepared for the eyes of only one being in existence, as neatly as legal documents delivered by a courier? I asked incredulously. I felt the truth of the fact radiate from Jehoshaphat. He couldn't lie to me. It was as if I could read his mind. I decided to change approach. Who was he? I barked. I was rewarded with an image of a ghostly woman in a pale shadow of a brightly colored fiesta dress. Everything from her olive skin to her black party boots was lightened and whitened, as if seen through the haze of a memory in a dream. What was her name? I asked. I felt Jehoshaphat's distress that I had learned something from his thoughts and not his words. He was trying hard not to think about his source. But the name was a queenly name, and with that hook I spoke again. She was a queen, I believe, or of queenly descent. How'd you know that? Jehoshaphat cried. He was trying to get away from me, but I was in his space. There was nowhere to run. I felt him feeling for my linkage to his server, trying to find a way to sever the connection, but my encryption and proxies were many and varied, and his control of his server was not as complete as he believed it was. He had become so enamored with the histories of the city that he had ignored the server he lived on. It didn't matter why he failed to dislodge me. What was important was that he couldn't be rid of me. If he had been a simian, I would have been in trouble. Actually, I would already be dead. As it was, I was able to seize control of his server assets about as easily as a ganger girl would roll over an old man in a cheap, made-for-instant download, gangsploitation movie. Within moments, I pinned him in place, and he was at my mercy. Firmware Keylogger begins where Firmware Proxy ends, which in turn followed on the heels of Firmware Hijacked. Firmware Hijacked, Proxy, and Keylogger are all available in ebook versions from our store at shop.Colbyjack.net, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and Smashwords.com. Just search for Colbytrax. That's Colbytrax. I'm the only one. A complete audiobook version of both Firmware, Hijacked, Proxy, and soon Keylogger is available for download through our shop as well. If you don't need any stuff, but would like to support our work, drop on by Colbyjack.net and hit the pretty little donate button conveniently located on the right-hand side of the blog roll. Firmware Keylogger is released under a Creative Commons, non-commercial, attribution, share-alike license. Do what you want with it. Just don't sell it, and always tell people where it came from. If you received this from a friend and want more information about Colbyjack.net and our split personality website, just drop on over to Colbyjack.net and select either the audio or visual side. The audio side carries our podcast, while the visual side carries our writings. Whichever side catches your fancy is fine with us. We're of two minds about the whole thing anyway. I do mostly Twitter, so if you do the tweets and want to follow me, I'm Colbytrax. That's Colbytrax. Thank you once again. Remember to be fabulous and have a wonderful week.